Dr. S. Jayashankar, Foreign Secretary, Major General Alok Deb, Deputy Director General IDSA, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Kong Sakri of Thailand, a former DG and also in charge of IORA in the Thai Foreign Office, distinguished delegates and invitees. It's a privilege to be here for the second IORA meeting of experts for maritime safety and security today. I take this opportunity to extend my appreciation to the IDSA for the warm hospitality and excellent arrangements for this event. This is the second experts meeting in India on IORA regarding the maritime safety and security. The first was in October 2015, organized by the National Maritime Foundation of India. I'd also like to acknowledge the absence of one of our good friends, Mr. Jayant Prasad, who's the Director General of IDSA, and we all wish him the very best and hope to see him very soon. In recent years, the strategic community seldom misses the opportunity to project the next big thing, which is the Indian Ocean as the major strategic theater in which lie the primary fault lines of regional contestations involving both big and emerging powers within and without the ocean. As K.M. Panikkar put it in very simple language, the destinies of the rim states will be decided on the waters of the Indian Ocean, including that of India. While I leave the latter part of the statement for the next speaker, Dr. Jayashankar, let me dwell briefly on IORA. When President Nelson Mandela, during a visit to India in 1995, said, and I quote, "The natural urge of the facts of history and geography should broaden itself to include the concept of an Indian Ocean rim for socio-economic cooperation and other peaceful endeavors. Recent changes in the international system demand that the countries of the Indian Ocean shall become a single platform," unquote. This call of Mandela, well before the Asian economic crisis, underpinned the creation in March 1997 of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and under the circumstances was visionary. It is not just mere coincidence that both Mandela in 1995 and Panikkar half a century earlier knew that India's role in the Indian Ocean may define the collaborative architecture in the region. Today, IORA is the apex regional organization of 21 member states, stretching from South Africa in the west to Australia in the east. With its 7 dialogue partners, the P5 minus Russia and Germany and Japan, veritably straddling the Indo-Pacific, which today has become a magic mantra for the states of the two oceans and beyond. The nature of the problems faced by the majority of rim states, owing to the sharply varying socio-politico-economic imbalances arising from poor infrastructure, meager resources, and weak governance systems, are factors that impact the geostrategic situation. It is also to be noted that Somalia was admitted as the last member of IORA, which was last year. The 21 states also have huge divergences in these political, economic, and cultural systems, and some with rich civilizations that date back several thousand years. The Indian Ocean Rim and its hinterland are home to over 2 billion people, with these sharp variances in their Human Development Index arising from the reasons just mentioned. 4 G20 states, 7 less developed states, some advanced, and several emerging economies comprise this grouping that begs a common identity, except the ocean waters that wash its shores. A perfect alchemy for a strained geostrategic situation. That, however, and happily so, is not the case. There are more commonalities in all spheres of activity than contrarian positions. A preliminary geostrategic examination of the region indicates that the number of rim states without an integrated ocean policy whether for security or for development, that addresses their respective strategic interests is numerous, in spite of which intra-regional conflictual situations are not common, unless extra-oceanic interests intrude and create tensions. The challenges are numerous, but as always, it comes with opportunities. With India becoming chair of IORA in 2011, the organization received a much needed leadership and support which was missing in the early years. Followed by Australia and Indonesia as chairs, and now South Africa, all consecutively giving their full commitment to IORA's open regionalism, have succeeded in creating a critical mass that now has gathered a momentum of its own. Last March, IORA marked its 20th anniversary with a commemorative summit in Jakarta, for which the overarching theme was strengthening maritime cooperation for a peaceful, stable, and prosperous Indian Ocean. It is a surprise that since 2013, IORA has organized 10 events, conferences, seminars, and workshops in which maritime safety and security figured as the top priority or as the only topic of discussion. Broadly, they covered national security, human security, marine environmental health, disaster risk management, climate change, and sectoral economic cooperation, encouraging regional engagement at Track 1 and Track 1.5. The IORA Secretariat was able to distill the outcomes of these 10 or 11 events and formulated an action-oriented matrix on maritime safety and security and placed it before the senior officials 2 years ago and also in front of the Council of Ministers, Foreign Ministers, last year, in order to obtain some direction on the way forward. And mum was the word. The question that arises, therefore, is the methodology for coordinating multidisciplinary sectoral programs that fall under line ministries in member states. All member states continue to have some sort of difficulty in getting that coordination going, and we hope that we'll be able to put through some sort of mechanism where the processing becomes smoother. South Africa launched Operation Pakiza, which includes a blue economy initiative and has up to 15 departments in which the single coordination point is in the President's office. So that gives an indication of how we should go about trying to get the work done. Our Secretariat has also formulated an action plan with short, medium, and long-term objectives and pressed member states to take ownership for each of the sectors. This work was finalized with a great amount of difficulty and in detailed consultations with member states and took up to 18 months to prepare. It was finally approved by the Council of Ministers in Durban after it had been endorsed by the summit in Jakarta in March. Now all that remains to be done is to get the coordination of the line ministries going with the leadership of the foreign offices, which, as per the charter, is the national focal point for all governments, all member states. This action plan finally facilitates the implementation of projects such as a maritime university in Bangladesh, a fish harbor in Tanzania, a SEZ in Iran, a maritime center of excellence in Malaysia, a maritime connectivity hub in Oman, an ocean observatory in Mauritius, and a center of excellence in India. IORA also participated in the G7 meeting on maritime security held in Germany in 2015 and in Japan in 2016, and the latter coming just in the wake of the South China issue. In fact, IORA also organized a Blue Economy event in Qingdao on July 13th and 14th, which was a day after the verdict of the tribunal of the Permanent Court of Arbitration. There was some concern among member states and dialogue partners that the issue could distract from the subject, which was the topic for discussion. However, in spite of the very presence of the principal players of the region coming together under the IORA umbrella, I'm happy to state that all meeting in the same platform did not discuss anything which was outside that of the agenda for the meeting, which was a very happy conclusion to the meeting. That said, I might add that China is also the most active of development dialogue partners of IORA. We are looking forward to South Africa taking over, which has taken over as chair, and the linkages with dialogue partners, all dialogue partners, are being strengthened. There is a special team that is looking after that, and we hope that activities with the other dialogue partners will also expand in the future. When India became chair of IORA in 2011, it was proposed at the ministerial level in Bengaluru that there would be an interface between IORA and IONS, the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. There was a lot of interest in it amongst the strategic community at that time. Piracy was at its peak in the Northwest Indian Ocean region, so the idea did seem very attractive. India was also then chair of both IORA and IONS. But it was not to be, and there were some misgivings in several quarters amongst member states. Australia too later became chair of both IORA and IONS and met the same fate when it came to trying to put together an interface between IORA and IONS. However, there were two major events: the Commodore Naval Exercises of Padang in Indonesia in 2015 that coincided with the Indian Ocean Dialogue, and the International Fleet Review in Vizag last year, when NMF organized an Indian Ocean conference along with IORA. The main thrust of both were for IORA to have a mandate for involvement in the traditional sectors of maritime security in the Indian Ocean. By far the boldest initiative was by IORA foreign ministers who met in the IORA Secretariat in 2014 to try and transfer to IORA the coordinating role for one of the most successful manifestations of maritime security regional cooperation, which was the Contact Group on Piracy off the coast of Somalia, CGPCS, created in January 2009 in response to UN Security Council Resolution 1851 on Somalia piracy and armed robbery at sea. There were over 80 navies and other organizations and industry groups which were taking part in this whole exercise, which were participating in the operations also. This meeting again of the foreign ministers in the IORA Secretariat did not go beyond discussions in view of the ad hoc nature of the CGPCS and its voluntary character, and also the lack of oversight in the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, the UNODC, which was coordinating its activities at that time, which also, so it didn't work out in spite of the hopes of several member states. But then there were several member states which simply didn't want anything which didn't have any oversight. The IORA Charter is very clear in ruling out any mandate outside of regional economic cooperation. President Nelson Mandela had monitored the draft of the Charter during the 95-97 formulation of the same to ensure that no element of political dynamics crept into the document. The fact that the focus of the major powers has shifted to the Indian Ocean in recent years, coupled with the remarkable economic growth in the Asian coasts, have added to the oft-repeated Indo-Pacific as a geostrategic space, a big power construct at that. I believe that no regional grouping fully comprehends its implications, and I think it's work in progress. And the very recent tensions that have taken place, that are existing in the Pacific side, only makes it even more imperative for the Indian Ocean to provide the balance for peace, stability, and to facilitate development. On hindsight, I believe that the events as they happened were perhaps for the best, but it is also indicative of IORA member states who want an organization which will at some point of time address the regional dynamics that impact the geostrategic state of play in the Indian Ocean in a more direct way. At the end of the day, it will happen when the member states consensually decide that it should happen. When Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi visited Mauritius in March 2015, he had said that often regional groupings are formed around landmass and that the time has come for a strong grouping around the Indian Ocean, adding that the Indian Ocean Rim Association can be an important instrument for pursuing the vision for a sustainable and prosperous future in the region. Importantly, he also announced SAGAR, Security and Growth for All in the region. On its part, the IORA Secretariat has worked on the non-traditional or developmental aspects of SAGAR, and some crucial common areas of cooperation figure in the IORA Action Plan, which has been approved by the foreign ministers last month. I believe that we must continue to challenge ourselves as the region around us evolves at a swift pace. However, I am confident that the momentum gathered by IORA today will gain considerably in the next few years, with South Africa at the helm at present, and with UAE and Bangladesh to follow. And from what I have discussed with the Thai ambassador, they would like to come after Bangladesh as chair of IORA. The way forward for addressing maritime threats must be connected to international best practices and to develop comprehensive approaches to security governance in the Indian Ocean. Over the next 2 days, we have sessions which will be taking place, as you know from the program, on maritime safety and security challenges, geostrategic cooperation and an Indian Ocean architecture, including approach to MDA, maritime domain awareness, regional legal frameworks, and of course capacity building and capability building. Now, apart from this, of course, unfortunately we didn't have the time, but we would have very much wanted to have a discussion on 2 other topics which deal with maritime connectivity in the Indian Ocean, which we have been discussing with the United Arab Emirates and Oman, and we hope at a future date we'll be able to have a session dedicated to that. And of course, the much more important maritime cyber security, which I think impacts is looking fairly dangerous these days, and it needs to be addressed, and we need to discuss it in order to be ready to address it at some future date. We have today very distinguished experts participating in this meeting. I also thank Dr. Jaishankar for being here with us today for the inaugural session. The insights of the 5 themes of the agenda, I'm sure, would be very valuable to all of us, and I also encourage the dialogue partners to play an important role in the proceedings. I'm very happy that Germany is also here with us today. I wish all of you a very productive and stimulating discussion, and we look forward to a engrossing 2 days today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.